Razorback Nation, we are back once again with another episode of Hogs on the Hill. Before we get started, as always, episode 31 is brought to you by Homefield. Step into the legacy of collegiate style with Homefield's premium vintage apparel. Embrace the spirit of your alma mater or even just your favorite team with their meticulous crafted, comfortable, and stylish collections. Elevate your game day attire and celebrate the rich history of college sports. Homefield, where tradition meets modern comfort in every stitch. Variety Sports in all caps is that promo code to get 15% off that first order. Go check them out today. The holidays are right around the corner. Christmas is next week. As you can tell, we're a little festive here with the background, but Christmas is next week, so go get your favorite Razorback fan a new piece of Razorback clothing. They got all kinds of options over there at Homefield. Again, that's Variety Sports in all caps to receive 15% off that first order. And if you notice, we are joined by our special guest tonight, WarMachine 2013, the very best at making Razorback videos on YouTube and Twitter. We're excited to have him join us and talk football and basketball tonight. And so, how are you, man?
I'm great, man. I appreciate y'all having me on. You know, I'm excited for Christmas this week. I'm a big Christmas guy, so I'm pumped. So I love the background y'all got going. I love the snow. I was hoping we'd get some this year, but it don't look like we're going to get any.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like it's going to be another non-white Christmas here in Arkansas. So,
yeah, I can't even think the last time we have one. I guess when I was in sixth grade, I remember one, but that's been 20-something years, so it's been a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these portal commits today. And, I mean, finally it seems today is the day. We've got some commits over the past, week or so. But it seems like the ones we got today were, really the big ones that were, quote unquote, the term that's been used is needle movers, changing the temperature, if you will, of, of how we're kind of looking into next year. And overall, not a bad, transfer class so far, but nothing super spectacular either until you get to today when you get a big pickup on the offensive line. And we'll jump into that here in a little bit. But, before we dive into some of these portal pickups, WarMachine, what is your take on, the current state of the football program and, this transfer portal class as a whole?
Well, personally right now, I like the class so far. I think it's not necessarily, like you said, a spectacular class, but it's a pretty solid group so far. I think Robinson today was obviously the biggest get of them all. That was a huge position of need. Getting Kittler at center was, and again, another one. The offensive line was one we really, really needed to shore up. And getting those two dudes plus the guy from Oregon, just massive to get those three guys. It allows you to move Carmona around, maybe do some different stuff with Harris. I really, really like those three ads. I'm hoping we can get a running back commit here soon. It sounds like we probably are, maybe even two. Not sure who the second one's going to be, but I think they're trying to go for two. I like the two receivers they added in the slot. Really like Shank's speed. He's pretty elusive, pretty versatile. He scored on us when UAB was in Fayetteville, and he led the nation in punt returns, it's huge. That's been one of kind of our Achilles' heels is lack of a punt return game, and I think that could be a huge game changer for us. And then Sharp, knowing the system, is just that you can't put a price on that. That's massive. I know some people would have rather had some other guys, but I think Sharp's got some really good skill to him, runs some good routes from what I've seen. I haven't watched him or Shank's blocking. That's really important at the receiver spot. People don't realize that. When linemen do their jobs, you get first downs. When receivers do their job blocking, you get touchdowns. And I think those two guys will be fine. We typically block well at the receiver spot. Hoping we get some outside guys here soon. Sounds like it's promising with a few guys. Hopefully they don't make us wait forever. That's the worst part of all this is having to wait for guys. Now the downside is the amount of guys we lost. Unfortunately, that's kind of been the norm the last couple of years with the program. Now the good chunk of those were just, guys who were just looking for more playing time. I don't blame those guys at all. I wish pretty much all of them best of luck. I hate seeing guys go to Ole Miss. As a Northeast Arkansas guy, if you know anything about this area, all of us hate Ole Miss with a passion. There's a lot of Ole Miss people around here. It's only 2 hours away. It's kind of like how OU is in Northwest Arkansas. I know a lot of people hate OU over there, even though we don't really play where we'll start playing them soon, I guess. But it's kind of the same thing, So it kind of pains me to see that. Hated to lose Spence to Texas, but I can't blame him. That's a good place for him to go. But I like our linebacker core. Keeping Story, keeping Dix, and then adding on those freshmen. I think we'll be pretty good in the linebacker room. And getting Campbell back was massive, massive.
Yeah, I agree. That's big that, you get those two guys back on that can be the leaders of these defense there. And like you said, I think the big thing with Shanks is, like you mentioned, this punt returning. The big thing for me is hopefully in the offseason we work on not blocking our players into the punt returner. And that would help a lot.
Yeah, that it cost us the game at Oklahoma State. I mean, you can point at 1,000 different things in that game, but that one was, to me, the one. We're up by 8 with, I don't know, 8 or 10 minutes left. You get the ball back there, I know we just missed a field goal before that, but you gave them the ball in the 20-something. They tied the game up, and it completely just changed everything. And the thing was, we actually ran into them early in the first half, and then we did again in the La Tech game. That kind of stuff's got to get cleaned up. That's the stuff that can't happen. That's not necessarily a talent issue. That's just a scheme. I don't know what exactly the issue is with that. That can't happen. I don't know if it's because it's Satania not yelling. Typically on punt, the call is Peter, 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 like basically telling everybody to get away. I don't know if he wasn't yelling it loud enough or what, but for it to happen as many times as it did, it wasn't good. So hopefully we can.
I'm pretty sure every time it was some of the younger guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I know at Oklahoma State it was. I'm not sure about the La Tech game, but I think it was for La Tech as well.
Yeah, I think normally, like, you're going to see a lot of probably those younger guys getting their snaps on the special teams, and so that would make sense why you maybe see some of that. Is those guys that just getting some reps there, but maybe not used to playing in those positions. But like we said, overall this class hasn't been bad, and we got some commits. Austin and I last week or on Sunday was talking Raylan Sharp, the two DBs, Connie Walker, and the JUCO kid, Dalvia. And then so since then, we've gotten a few more commits, and we'll just go ahead and start right here with in chronological order. The first one we got after that, you got an edge rusher, Ken Talley, coming over from Michigan State. Guy last year that had 6 total tackles, 3 of those solo, 1.5 sacks. He comes over with 2 years of eligibility. He is a guy that is a former 4-star prospect from the class of 22. And, he said, part of his visit coming and deciding to come to Arkansas was Coach Deke Adams, and how he can get better, as well as Travis Williams. Travis Williams has done a fantastic job recruiting on defense since he's been here. So this is a guy that is more, like we talked about, one of those depth pieces that can come in and give you some depth, because you're having to replace a lot with losing Eric Gregory and Landon Jackson. Those are 2 pieces that were your main 2 big defensive linemen that, did the most work for you this year. So this is a step in the right direction as far as looking at depth, because you've got some young guys coming back, Ian Giffard, Quincy Rhodes, some of the even younger guys, if you will, with Kavion Henderson, Charlie Collins. So you've got a lot of youth on this team, but this guy brings, Power 4 experience, maybe not the production that you would think of, but can, just be a good depth piece for this defense next year.
Yeah, and he's got the size kind of like Junkaj and Davier, 6'3", 256. So very well he could be on that other side, opposite of the Jack, like the Landon Jackson and Quincy Rhodes type of guy. So he kind of fits right in with Williams' defense too. So I wish there was more film, more stuff to see on him, other than some of the high school stuff you can find. But like you said, good depth. And then I feel like he could probably have a potential to earn a starting role too, with how much they lost on that other side of the line.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's worth a take as far as the upside. It might take him a few games to kind of get there, But it's going to be hard to replace Landon Jackson in general. But that's not what he's being asked to do.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily being asked to be a Landon replacement. And people don't realize how impactful Landon was in the run game. I think if he doesn't get hurt, we probably beat Missouri. He made a huge difference. But I think Ken, again, was worth the take for sure. I think if anyone can get it out of him, it'll be our guys on defense, our defensive coaches.
Yeah, he's got some pieces to play around. Of course, we just talked about him, Campbell leading that defense, so a good guy to kind of be around, learn from, and kind of hopefully pick up this system as they go. As we continue on here, next up you've got Cam Shanks. Like you mentioned earlier, the guy that we saw this year when UAB came to town, scored a touchdown on us on a sweep play. On through the air at the wide receiver position, finished the season with 62 catches, 656 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Comes in with 3 years of eligibility. He was he was a true freshman this year for UAB and Trent Dilfer. He's a guy that comes in and is very much he's going to be your guy that's going to be your fast, quick, shifty guy that hopefully you can get the ball to in space, similar to how Raylan Sharp's going to be. He's only 5'8", 180, so he's just going to be a small guy, that's for sure. But he's got that elusive speed that you get it to him, and he can turn on the jets, and has the chance to beat some guys downfield.
Yeah, I think his elusiveness and speed will be two really critical things, and the elusiveness thing is something we've kind of been lacking the last few years, so that'll be a massive thing. Like just being able to make guys miss in space is one of the things we really missed this year. We didn't have anyone that could necessarily do that this year. I know Satana had his speed, but he doesn't necessarily the most elusive guy. So being able to throw just a quick hitch to somebody and letting them turn and break someone's ankles will be huge for this offense.
Yeah. Big Ben says your slot receiver here. So yeah, he's going to be one of the many players that are probably rotated into that role. But like you said, over the previous couple of years, Satania's been the closest guy that we've had to be that. And like you said, just not great that straight line speed, but when you try to get him moved sideways, he struggled a little bit with that. And then other than that, all of our other receivers weren't necessarily super fast. You had guys that were elusive, but not necessarily fast. Armstrong was a guy that he could make a guy or two miss. Broden was just a big guy that was your big target. And then, Tesla, when he played, was, another one of those guys that was just, a reliable catch. I think this Cam Shanks and Jordan Anthony are probably very similar guys. Didn't see a ton of Jordan Anthony this year. He had that big catch against Mississippi State. That was fantastic. A great throw by Green, kind of threading the needle there between those defenders to hit him in the end zone. But, it seems like next year's team, depending on potential commits for for more receivers, we're going to be a smaller, quicker team at wide receiver than maybe what we have been the past couple seasons.
Yeah, because they've had guys that were 6'4" and above pretty much starting, all except this year. Before that, it was Tesla, and he's a 6'4" receiver. So to his point, it's there really hasn't been elusiveness because they've gone for that size. They wanted big physical receivers because, in my opinion, they really wanted to focus on the running game. And I don't know if you said it on the pod or before the pod, but receiver blocking gets you touchdowns, and that's really what they wanted. Which is weird because they went opposite with tight ends as on the opposite spectrum. They went with like Hawgs in Washington and Gums, and they're both they're all 6'3", 230, 250 pounds. So yeah, it's going to be a wild shift this next year, especially if they get one or two guys out of the portal that are 6'4" and above. Right now, I think the biggest guy they have on the team is Monty Harrison, and he's an old man like me, so we'll see how well he can do.
I'll say this: with the times Monty's been on the field, that dude loves to block. I love sitting in games watching him just bully some hapless corner when he's in. So it's fun watching. He's got that grown man strength though, so that helps.
Yeah.
I was about to say
It's
he's one I
borderline
hope we see
abuse is what
more
it
of.
is.
Yeah, it is.
He's one I hope we see more of in the bowl game.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to need to step up, but yeah. Pigpen here says off topic, but Pigpen says give a shout out to WarMachine. Highlights come in clutch when you can't catch the game. So there you go, Pigpen shouting you out there for you coming in clutch.
I appreciate that, man. I do what I can. I try to get them out as quick as I can, and if not, then at least the next day. If not, if not quicker. So appreciate you.
But yeah, so next year should be an interesting shift to see. Like we said, we're not going to have very many receivers over 6 foot next season, pending any more portal additions, which we should have a few more based on guys that have been visiting, and there is a potential. We'll get a little bit more in this discussion later, but Courtney Crutchfield entered the transfer portal today from Missouri. Big in last year's class. Was committed to Arkansas, decommitted. Then flipped his commitment. But that could be some potential, and we'll get into that conversation in a minute. But as we continue on here, another guy we brought in, Jaden Platt from Texas A&M. He is going to be one of the hopefully few that we kind of use as a committee to replace, what the production we're losing with Luke Haas. You're losing Ty Washington, Marquise Gums, and then there's the talk of moving Shamar Easter to the wide receiver group. So he has the potential to come in and get some playing time right away. He is a guy he was a 4-star in the class of 2023. He's a guy that not a ton of production at A&M the past couple seasons. He is a redshirt freshman. So from what I've heard and seen, he didn't get a ton of run at Texas A&M just because I think when Mike Elko came in this year, he brought in a few guys transfer of, that kind of maybe he wanted to, and he got buried in the depth chart a little bit. I think the talent's there. And based on, what we've seen in the past, hopefully he gets utilized by Petrino, like Wupik said here, thinks Platt should be a solid tight end. Want to see what he brings to the blocking game. And I think that's what you're going to see out of guys like Platt. I mean, that's what we saw Haas has used as this year and Ty Washington and Puska, guys that use more for blocking than receiving. You'll have them at times have their moments where, look at that Mississippi State game. Tight ends accounted for 4 touchdowns in that game. So at times he'll get his moment to, be a key receiver, but I think blocking is going to be part of it. And he is definitely one built for blocking.
Yeah, I think that's going to be his main role. I like his size. Like you mentioned earlier, our other tight ends we had this year weren't the biggest, and at times they struggled to block. I was a little surprised how much we didn't use them more in the passing game, but we also had to keep them in the block a lot, and that was part of it. Mm-hmm. I think him coming in there'll be a huge impact in that regard, and that'll be nice to see. We're gonna actually run some more outside zone and buck sweeps and things of that nature.
100%. I think he's a guy that, the talent's there. Now can this coaching staff extract him? If you remember of the Petrino offenses in the past, when you don't have to necessarily use your tight end to make up for maybe some of the lack of blocking by your offensive line, he can use them as receivers pretty well. He had some great tight ends back when he was here before. So, if some of these offensive line additions can help shore up the offensive line, and you don't have to necessarily use your tight ends all the time to compensate for, struggles blocking, then that's where you're going to see more usage in the passing game with these tight ends.
Yeah, Chris Craig was a stud. DJ Williams, tight end of the year. I mean, he had some pretty good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of want to go back on because I looked it up after, but if anybody's worried about the height of these receivers, Jarius Wright, he was 5'10", and Joe Adams was 5'11". So I'm not super worried about it. And the same with, I feel like we're kind of going back to what that offense was back in the day with Petrino, except we have a quarterback that can run instead of throw like Ryan Mallett, So I think Platt's a good pickup. I think he's probably got better hands. Well, I'm just guessing here, but I'm guessing he has better hands than Pasca does. But we saw what he did, right? Like you said, 2 of those 4 were him, and I think those were those 2 of his 3 touchdowns on the year. I'm not sure, but it was the majority of them. And I think with those offensive linemen that we've added, we're not going to have to keep them in the box as often. We're going to be able to utilize them. And the problem is whenever we did have like Haas or Washington or, whoever go out on a route this year, Taylor Green had a guy in his face every single time. I know there was, I was like yelling, Haas is up back in the backfield and Taylor Green's running for his life. So, either you had to keep him in or Taylor Green was going to get smoked. So, having those guys here and then having the extra beef on the offensive line, I think that's where we can have the most growth with the tight ends. And, the length and the size of these guys helping in the rushing game, it's great stuff.
Yeah, I agree 100% there. Can't forget this, man. Woopig said Jeremy Sprinkle is another tight end that did some damage for us for sure. Yeah, can't forget the man himself. Loved him and his little sprinkle celebration as well in the end zone. And as we continue here, the cherry on top, if you will, so far to this portal class, Corey Robinson, the transfer offensive tackle from Georgia Tech, the number 2 overall offensive tackle in this transfer portal class. He comes in with grading out as a 69.2 offensive grade this past season, 91.2 in pass protection and 56.3 in run blocking. He's got that's going to come in with 1 year of eligibility, but this was the guy that I think you couldn't miss on. You had to have him for next season. And, it was, I'm sure they did whatever it took to get him to, commit and stay, at Arkansas because, he originally was supposed to visit Oklahoma. Kind of tweeted that out last night, but then, that got deleted. And I'm sure they kind of worked with him on probably what his deal was going to be at NIL wise. And now you have an extremely talented offensive tackle coming in for this offensive line next year.
Yeah, his run grade, his pass grade is phenomenal. His run grade surprised me a little bit, but Georgia Tech did run the ball a lot, and they were honestly one of my favorite teams to watch scheme-wise. Some of the stuff they did was just a blast, but I'm not really that worried about that as far as with us. It's one of those things you can get that fixed. I think whatever issue there was, I haven't watched the film to see, but I think whatever the problem is can be fixed. But that pass grade, my goodness, that's something we needed badly, especially if we're going the receivers that we are. That's exciting. I don't care who you are. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of what that has to do, he's 6'5", 305. So, and whenever he was recruited, I'm pretty sure he was like 280. So he's on the smaller side. I'm hoping that when he gets here and he gets put through this offseason, maybe he can bulk up and maybe that pass grade might, or that running grade might go up just a little bit. But yeah, like you're saying, 92, he leads, I think offensive linemen, if not just offensive tackles in passing grade per Pro Football Focus.
He ranks number 1 amongst Power 5 offensive linemen, and he didn't allow a single sack all year.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I'm telling you, so I cover Clemson too, so I've watched a lot of ACC defenses, and the defense on the defensive side of the ball, it's got to be probably edge where they are actually pretty good across the board. So, dude, if he can do it there, I feel like he'll easily translate over here. And I think what he does is he gives Mateos a little bit of flexibility in where to move guys. So instead of keeping Carmona on the left side of the offensive line, he can move him to right tackle, or he could move him in. Watch, I don't think he'll move inside. I think it'll be right tackle, put like a Marion left guard, and then we got that center in the portal too. So all this does is it gives competition, and two, it gives Mateos flexibility. So I'm excited about that for sure.
Yeah, I think Harris will be a better guard. I think Carmona has a good chance to be moved inside, but I think if you had to switch guys inside, I think Harris would be the more logical one to move there. Because when he played in the Liberty Bowl 2 years ago as a freshman, he was really good at guard.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that, even though maybe their natural position's a tackle spot, he can be, a very talented guard, just moving inside a little bit. So, like Pigpen says here, both him and McCrory from Oregon, quick feet. Hopefully they have those quick feet. Those SEC DNs are no joke. They got that speed. So that's what we're going to be looking for here. Especially with a kid from Oregon, I think you're going to want to see that more from him, just because you don't have any really true snaps. He didn't play at all this year. I think he had maybe like a handful of snaps, if any, at Oregon. So he's going to be a guy come in that I would be more worried about his feet than I would Robinson's, just because Robinson has that experience and all the years of playing, whereas McCrory that came over from Oregon is a true freshman. They didn't get a ton of minutes last year, but hopefully we can develop him, and the tangibles are there for McCrory. And he's got some great guys to learn from now that we got Robinson in the building as well. And I'm excited, in terms of, for what we lost, losing 60% of your offensive line is very worrisome. So to go out there and make a big splash like this, getting, number 2 overall tackle in the class, that was big. You had to have something like this for any hopes of next year being, decent. Right now, I say that right now, just because it doesn't matter whatever you get at other positions. If Taylor's having to run for his life next year or can't stay upright, you're not going to have much success at all.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason is, the guy is so big, right? So that's like, on one hand, that's impressive. On the other hand, you're kind of worried about the quickness aspect of it. And if you watch any of his stuff from high school, he wasn't much smaller than he is now. He still had quick feet, especially for a guy who weighed, 360, 375 pounds. That I feel like when they get here and go through the offseason, they'll probably try to cut him down. I'm not even going to try and get a guess of where they want to get him to. But I feel like he would kind of be a prime spot for their right tackle position if he could be quick enough to take on DNs like that. If not, he could probably move inside for a season. But he just looks like an offensive tackle when you look at him. He's long, he's tall, and he's massive. So, but he's also on the bigger side, so you probably want to have him on that right side instead of the left side, if especially with Robinson coming in. But I feel like there's a lot of upside. I wanted him super bad out of high school, and I was pretty disappointed when he ended up picking Oregon over Arkansas. So this is great. I love having this guy back for sure. Just the size, and he's the first, like, quote unquote 4-star offensive lineman out of high school that Arkansas either recruit or via the transfer portal since Patrick Kudus, right? And with another, but I don't know. I feel like this guy has a lot of potential at tackle for sure.
Yeah. And then the one final one today so far in this class, Caden Kilter, the center transfer from UCF. He's coming in with 2 years of eligibility, bringing some experience from that center spot. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily blow you out of the water, but I think he's a great, if you will, 1-for-1 replacement with losing Addison Nichols. He's a guy that can come in, get the job done. I think it's like we said before we started the show here is, if as long as you can have good, clean snaps, you can kind of make up for some of the other things at that center spot. And that's what you need. He comes in with an offensive grade of 67.5, 79.1 pass blocking, 63.6 in the run blocking. He's a guy that, has played a couple of seasons at UCF under Gus Malzahn. So kind of similar schemes that, he might be used to here at Arkansas. I know I saw a comment by him that he said he's 6'3", 295, so a little bit on the lighter side. But he's a guy that I think I saw a comment that said that what he liked about Arkansas is there was a lot of in the scheming pull plays where the center gets to pull and get some blocking action, and probably the run game and even the potential pass game. And he was excited about that. So he's a guy that, nothing too crazy as far as it blows you out of the water, but can come in and get the job done.
Yeah, that pin and pull stuff's nasty. If we can do it with him, it would be really helpful. I was one of those. I hated losing Nichols, mainly because I knew we'd probably get a center in the portal. I think Nichols would have been pretty good at guard. I think he'll do well at SMU. Wish him the best of luck with Coach Lashley down there. But this is a good pickup, I think. Like you said, if you got clean snaps most of the time, that is something Nichols struggled with. That we had the Oklahoma State game. There was a few snaps in that game that were pretty killer. Some of it was Green being slightly off or slightly early, but there were some snaps that hurt us. And if you are consistent there, that makes a world of difference. Going back to I hate to even reference these days, but the Chad Morris days, you go back to his last year especially, we had some just awful snaps all year. It felt like they took 3 days to get back to the quarterback. And people don't realize how important it is to the timing of the whole offense. And I think he gives us that stability. And then if we can use him in any kind of gap scheme, pulls, that's nice.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be good. And yeah, it's going to be, like we say, clean snaps. You don't realize how important they are until you start having those snapping issues like we saw early on in the season. Got cleaned up a little bit towards the end. But yeah, that throws off some of the timing and things. And good question here. And I think this is a somewhat easy answer. Pigpen asks, which O-lineman is probably the biggest project? Most seem ready to plug in. Yeah, most of these guys that we've gotten so far seem ready to plug in. I think your biggest project, until we kind of start seeing what the coaches are saying in spring ball, is probably McCrory, the guy from Oregon. He's probably your biggest project because you don't really know what he brings because there's no film on him. He didn't have any snaps last year. So I think he's a guy that can come in. Maybe another one you throw out there, the coaching staff say they're high on true freshman Kobe Brannon. He's another guy that maybe, depending on his development, could be a guy that works his way into some rotation. Not giving up on Amarian Harris either. He's a guy that, you just mentioned that, came in a few years ago in the Liberty Bowl against Kansas, looked really great. And, where we've kind of been, waiting for him to get there. He's been an average player, nothing like that's going to hurt you, but, a guy that probably has more that you can get out of him. You guys' thoughts on, which potential of these linemen could be the biggest project for this team next year?
I mean, it's
as far as
got to be
incoming
McCoy, right?
guys, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And now, if you want to count current guys, I'm curious to see what Kobe does in the bowl game and these younger guys that are getting their chance. I know we're not talking. I know we're talking offensive line, but like Bridges at corner, I'm excited to see what he can do in the bowl game. I think it's a great chance for those guys. I think Blackstock needs some more work still. He's looking more like a depth guy this year, but we need depth. It's one of the things that hurt us at every position this year. So, but yeah, McCrory is the guy. If you're going to count incoming guys, McCrory is probably the biggest of these three.
Yeah, definitely. Blackstock is one of those guys that this year I think didn't necessarily live up to the expectations for, what he was supposed to bring in coming over from Michigan State. A guy that, he struggled at times. What was the stat I saw? They're talking about if you looked at the offensive line as a whole, and the total snaps and pressures allowed, I believe Blackstock allowed himself alone 30-something pressures, which is insane. Where you had, I believe Carmona's numbers was like 17, so half of that. And hopefully those are way down next year. And if he doesn't have some improvement next year, it's like you said, if he improves a lot of things, maybe he competes for a starting spot. But, based off this year's performance, and I don't know how much improvement he'll be able to make in the offseason, you're probably looking at a depth guy for sure.
Where'd you get those stats? Did you get it from PFF?
Yeah, I saw him somewhere, I think. I forgot where it's at, but it was from, PFF and the stats that, they record with all the snap counts and pressures allowed and things of that nature. So, with that,
I kind of lost a little bit of credibility with PFF the last few days. Did you see that tweet about Joshua Braun? Whenever it said three sacks in his career or 2 years of being at Arkansas, and I'm like, that is not true.
Out of pettiness, I want to go back and watch every snap this year.
Yeah, I know.
Now I don't think Braun was solid for us. He was one of those I wanted to keep for continuity, but I like PFF. I'm torn on PFF. It's like any other kind of analytic. I think it's a good tool, but they're not the most consistent with their grading. I'm not exactly sure who's actually doing the grading. I don't know if it's like college age interns. I don't know if it's actual former coaches. There's not consistency sometimes. So as much as I love to be like, hey, that pass grade from Robinson's great, which I think it's legit based on what I've seen. But there's some other things I'm like, I don't know. It's not super consistent. But the Brown one's definitely a red flag.
Yeah. For the NFL, it's, really good, but you have 32 teams and, not as many guys on the roster for each team to, go over. That threw me off. I was like, that cannot be true, because there's a lot of those times. See now, I don't know how they're counting them, because a lot of his sacks given up had to do with linebacker, blitzes from the second level, and him and a tackle. So maybe they're giving a lot of those sacks to the tackle instead of to Braun, even though they go right up like the A gap. So maybe that's what it is, but who knows?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I'm not sure their criteria on that.
Yeah. But, overall, like we said, so far this portal class is looking great. A little bit of news here as far as guys leaving out of Arkansas. We now know, we mentioned it earlier, but Ace Foster from On3 reports Isaiah Satania has committed to Oklahoma. He will be headed to Norman, playing for the Sooners. He's going to have 2 years of eligibility remaining to play over there. Wish him the best of luck. We don't see them on our schedule this year. Hate to see him go. I think we said in-state kid. You hate to see him go, but maybe that's what's best for him. But yeah, a guy that's leaving Arkansas, and now we know where he's headed.
Yeah, best of luck to him. I think he'll do well there. They got a new scheme coming in. The guy from Washington State. I got no problems with Isaiah. Best of luck to him.
I was about to say, and another guy that announced, where he's headed, Malachi Singleton will be headed to Purdue to join up with one of his old coaches, Barry Odom. Even though Barry Odom is a defensive guy, from his time here at Arkansas, there's probably that familiarity with each other. And Barry Odom trying to rebuild that program up there in Purdue. So you're probably going to see, honestly, a lot of UNLV players head to Purdue as well to follow Barry Odom there, since their bowl game is now completed. So, Singleton headed to Purdue. Isaiah Satania headed to Oklahoma. So we know where a few of these guys are headed. The Metcalf brothers are headed to Michigan. So it's a little bit spread out, not necessarily all these guys are going to Ole Miss.
No, and I hope Malachi does well. It's just unfortunately one of those things where I think every team is going to lose a quarterback off their roster every year. He just happened to be ours, and I get it. He's waited his time, and best of luck to him, the Metcalfs especially. And I will say this about Ole Miss: it's nice that they're apparently rating Alabama too, so it's not like they're just singling us out. That's a whole other conversation for a whole other time. Though, is what Lane's doing.
Yeah. And so, like we were saying, there's a few more guys that, are still out there as far as guys that we're going after in the portal. We said we talk about it. We'll go ahead and bring this up now. Courtney Crutchfield, a guy that he's entered the portal, redshirted, didn't see many snaps at Missouri this year. Rightfully so. You saw the receiver talent that they had this year with Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, guys like that. But a guy that I think really wanted to be a Hog last year. And then you had your offensive coordinator change and all that shift, and Bobby came in late. I don't know if he was, not necessarily sure about everything. And then Drink had been, and his staff had been on him consistently, and, end up deciding, to go with Missouri. But, potentially he's already got crystal ball for Arkansas. It makes sense. He's from Arkansas. Was close to signing here last year. A guy that could be headed to Arkansas, but he's another guy that he's 6 foot. So kind of will break that mark there on this roster. But a guy that definitely has some talent that would definitely be a great pickup in this portal class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no.
He was one. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
My bad.
You go for it.
Okay. He was one I really wanted last year. I hope we get him. And I'll just say this. If he does come here, I appreciate Missouri redshirting him and paying us for us for a year. So thank you, Drink.
Yeah, that's whenever he left, I was thinking, I was like, dude, you know what? Go get that bag for the first year and then come back here and we'll, have you beat Mizzou a couple of times. That's what I'm hoping.
Hopefully. I hope so.
He was my second that I hated to lose. I was an offensive lineman in high school, so offensive line is my thing. I love the big guys up there. Everyone talks about how boring it is to talk about offensive linemen. I'm like, no, it's fun. Like, I love it. So yeah, McCroy with number 1 for me, but having Courtney leave, that was really rough because him and Charlie were probably the first. I'm pretty sure they were the first 4 stars that Arkansas got to commit, and they were some of the highest that Arkansas had commit in like, I don't know, six years or something like that. I did a piece a couple years ago whenever they committed. But it was rough seeing them leave, and seeing, because him and Charlie Collins are family, so seeing that little bitterness go between them too. So that I was like, well, that kind of leads to a good rivalry with Missouri, but hopefully in the future, especially with the transfer portal, he can come back and maybe rejoin his cousin, and hopefully that's what happens. And the crazy thing about it is, with Luther Burden leaving for the NFL, he probably had a clear shot to start this year at Missouri, if not be a really good rotation guy. So I think if Arkansas were to pull him from Mizzou, that would be huge, because I think Mizzou already lost. What's that guy's name? The DN from St. Louis.
Oh, the 5-star guy. Yeah.
He
was like one of the top. Yeah, he was the number 1 overall player, I think. They did bring in that receiver from Mississippi State that was pretty. The Coleman kid. He's pretty good.
Yeah,
maybe that's one of the reasons
probably didn't sit well with Crutchfield either. It's like, hey guys, I'm right here, and you're bringing in another guy. Like, okay, right. I see how it is.
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good about getting him. I know his family's, from what I've heard, they're all Hog. I feel good about getting him a lot.
It's one of those things. It just makes sense. A guy from Arkansas would like to come back home. And then, other guys, while we're talking about, other potential gets in, guys that have been thrown out there. I know we've had Omega Blake, the receiver from Charlotte, that I believe is 6'3". in for a visit as well. And then Jordan Dwyer, the kid from Idaho that from the FCS level that, if you look at his numbers, it's outright video game numbers from what he had at Idaho this year. So, there's still some names on the board out there that, Arkansas's after, thinking about needs. You still need to go out and probably get 2 more receivers, depending on Crutchfield. You want to go attack. You need some more defensive linemen, I feel like, just to bring in some solid depth and experience. And then I think you got to attack the secondary a little bit more. We said that linebacker room, I'm feeling pretty good about it with Sorey back. You got Steven Dix back. Tavian Wallace coming in should see some rotation, I feel like, his first season. But, from what do you guys think? We've got, for the most part, rebuilt our offensive line. You might get one or two more guys for some depth pieces there. But, if you're this coaching staff now that you kind of have those commitments from today, where's your direction pointed now?
I'd probably say first, I don't know. I feel like it's a tie between receivers and running backs now because there's
I forgot about the running backs too. Yeah, we need to pick up at least a couple of those because you're losing your 3 guys that were in your rotation this year for the most part. You saw Rodney Hill get a few snaps early in the season, had an injury that he dealt with for a little bit later in the season, and then Tyrell Reed. That's going to be your 2 running backs for the bowl game. As far as you also got, listed on the roster, Juju Pope that's got listed as running back came in as a linebacker. But, so you need to go out and sign a couple guys. I know we had Mahadi, the guy from Texas State, in for a visit. He's still out there. I know the kid from Louisiana Monroe committed to Missouri. Missouri had one of their top freshmen transfer to Ole Miss. But there's still a few names out there. Eli Sanders, the kid from New Mexico, committed to USC, so he's off the board. But there's a few more guys that have entered the portal as of, just over the past couple of days that could be guys that you go after.
Yeah, I don't blame Sanders. He's from California. It's close to home. I like the Maryland back. I think the Texas State kid, I just keep an eye on him. And I think one more back to go with him if he does commit. And then I think just maybe get a couple more guys like a safety. I feel good about the UAB safety. And then the young kid, his name's literally Young, from Cincinnati. I think he would be a good corner to get. I've liked what I've seen from him. He's from Arkansas originally. I just can't remember from where. Those would be 2 good pickups if we could get them. And then, maybe one more offensive lineman and just an outside receiver. We need a guy we can throw jump balls to, and Omega would be that guy. And just his name's awesome. So that alone would be worth picking him up.
Yeah. I kind of hope I like the guy from Texas State, but I'm really hoping they get a guy with some size too.
Yeah.
Because I think, it's already a punishing position, right? Look at Jaquindon Jackson this year. He halfway through the season, he could hardly stay on the field. And that guy's 6'2", 230, 225. These guys who are, 5'11", 5'9", or 5'10", that's just not going to be good for longevity, throughout the season. Now they could probably do a running back by committee, kind of like we did with Kendall Briles. And I forgot the running backs coach. But yeah, so if we would have to do something like that, maybe we could do that, or kind of move away from a big rushing game, which is away from Sam Pittman's identity, right? He wants to run the ball a lot, but it's more towards Petrino's identity, I guess. Still, I don't know. I still want to see at least one big back. That way we can have some short yardage options too. And then if they can get somebody who's talented, be like an every down type of guy too.
Well, I was about to say, a guy to keep your eye on. I don't know if we're going to, make any contact or try to recruit or go after him or anything. The guy that entered the portal this morning, West Virginia had their running back, C.J. Donaldson, enter the portal this morning. If you want size, here you go. Austin, 6'2", 238 pounds. Rushed for 2,058 yards and 30 TDs over 3 seasons at West Virginia.
What was his name
He's a
again?
stud.
CJ Donaldson.
He can play. Now, I don't know if he's going to be wanting to get like a Bama or a Georgia or someone like that, but he would be a great one to get if we could get him. I've watched a few West Virginia games the last few years, and he can ball. He would be a great one to get. I don't know how much interest there is, but I really like the Maryland back too. But again, I don't know how much mutual interest there is there with him and us.
I was about to say, yeah, Roman Hemby. And then also, I don't know if he's a guy that we might talk to. Running back from Tennessee, Cameron Seldon, 6'2", 222. Who knows? A guy that, was on an SEC team, has seen SEC experience before. Yeah, you're not left with many options as far as running backs in the portal that are going to bring you some size, if you will. A Jaquin Jackson, a Braylon Russell type of guy. That whole situation is weird. He is a guy that I didn't necessarily want to lose, but the way things turn out, it's just it seemed doomed from the start, if you will.
Yeah, that was just a weird deal. But unfortunately, kind of part of this era.
Yeah. The whole recruitment and everything. I mean, it was always just a little bit off, like 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of thing. So it sucks. The dude's talented, but you got to be in and you're out. So like we were talking last week, or Sunday, whenever we were kids, our moms would, whoop us if we were coming in and out of the house. So, she said either out or in. You're not going to do this inside and outside thing. So it's kind of the same thing with these guys. If you're going to play like you're going to go out, just go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another guy that I don't know if we're on his radar or not, as far as running back from Nebraska, Dante Dowdle, 6'2", 225.
Yeah.
So there's still some guys out there. We'll see what Arkansas ends up doing. You got a couple guys coming in your incoming class, but those are guys that are probably not going to be able to, contribute right away. I wouldn't think. So we'll see what happens. Grab a couple of those guys. Like we said, attack that secondary, grab another guy or two. See what Selman Bridges does in the bowl game. See if he can maybe have his breaking out game, if you will. And it's like me and Austin been saying. With this bowl game, this is probably your only chance to see this team specifically with so many guys, that have opted out and transferred out. You're going to see a lot of unfamiliar names that maybe you knew of, but hadn't heard a lot this season. Especially at the wide receiver, you got Tesla that will probably be one of your main targets that's going to be focused on. Broden, not sure if he's going to play or not. I haven't necessarily heard. Jordan Anthony, CJ Brown, Monte Harrison, guys like that. Pittman the other day in his press conferences listed off just a list of, I think, almost the rest of the receivers on the roster that they're going to be throwing in there. Rodney Hill, Tyrell Reed, your running backs. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the biggest thing I'm ready to look at is what our offensive line is going to look like. Piece together, you got 2 returners and you're having to kind of feeling with young guys. And Talon said today, I think it was a clip from him saying, or today or yesterday, that he's comfortable with these young guys. He's liked the way they perform. So maybe that's a good sign that not all hope is lost for this bowl game.
I didn't get to watch the press conference. It was either yesterday or today. Did they talk about who was playing center or who they've got working at it?
Last I saw, I thought they were trying to work in, was it Brooks Edmondson?
I think so. I think that's the name I've heard. I didn't watch the conference today either or yesterday, but that's the name I heard earlier this week on one of the conferences, I think, from either Sam or one of the players were talking.
Yeah, that's what I'm really interested in, because if they can't get the snap off, it's going to be an ugly game. Yeah.
Well, guys, I hate to jet on y'all early, but the old lady's calling me to run some errands. So
Oh yeah, you're
I wish
good.
I wish I could stick around and talk some basketball, but hey, I will gladly come back on whenever y'all need me to. And appreciate y'all having me on tonight.
Yeah, you're more than welcome anytime. We'll get it set up. And so yeah, we thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time you decide to come on.
Absolutely, I love talking football and where to put guys and scheme and all that. So it's a lot of fun. Appreciate you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Y'all have a good one. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yep. Same to you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hopefully we get a bowl game win.
Hey, hopefully, I hope I get to make a highlight video next week. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Yep. You too. We'll see you. All right, so we'll continue here. Liam says, how about Isaiah? Someone said he may recommit. Unfortunately not. He just committed to Oklahoma. That news came out just, maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. So Isaiah is headed to Oklahoma. Unfortunately, like we said, a guy that, it's not end all be all that he left, but a guy that you would like to have back, just to, a guy that you don't have to replace. But, overall, I think this transfer portal is class is shaping up. If you can go out and get you a couple more guys, a few more receivers like we just discussed, a couple running backs and things like that, you should be looking pretty good for next season and shaping up. I will say, I don't know if you saw it today, Austin, but it was they put it on social media. It was a clip from the Chuck and Bo show. Bo Mattingly was already calling it. He said Arkansas is going 9-3 next year. He said he's putting it out there. Arkansas is going 9-3. He said, put that on social media. I said, okay. I'm surprised. Unless he just knows a lot that we don't. That would be fantastic if it actually happened. But
was it Bo or Chuck that said that?
Bo.
Okay.
So I'm hard pressed to find 4 to 5 wins on our schedule next year, and he's saying we're getting 9. So props to him.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah. All right.
I would take it in a heartbeat, but it's hard for me to see it right now. Who knows? We signed some more guys, go through spring ball. Maybe things are gelling together, and it's year 2 of Bobby offense, and things are looking better. Taylor's looking better. Built rapport with these receiving core. Who knows? But for now, that's a bold take. But I would love to be sitting here a year from now, being like, man, Bo was right. So.
Yeah, me too. I hope so, but I don't think so.
Yeah, it's tough. It really is tough. We'll jump over quickly before we get out of here. Do a quick some basketball news. If you missed it earlier this week, Arkansas's very own Boogie Fland got some honors himself. He was named SEC Player of the Week. Freshman of the Week for what he's done so far, this past week. 18 points per game, 8 assists per game, 3.5 steals per game, and 3 rebounds per game. He's doing it all. We've talked about it before. This kid came in college ready, and he's had very few games where he hasn't looked the part. But he's a guy that I'm ready to see him throughout the rest of the season. And once we get to SEC play, it's like we kind of said before the show. Unfortunately, guy that we're only going to get to see here for just this one season at Arkansas. Yeah, man. And he's a little bit further off this time from getting a triple-double, but still 5 rebounds, 9 assists. 9 assists is insane by a freshman, man. I don't care that they're playing UCA. That's incredible. And then, you look at the guys he helped out, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other guys in double figures. Strangely enough, Carter Knox, second leading scorer on the team, which is that's cool. I like seeing that too. But yeah, I just he's good. There's nothing else to say. And if he could just be consistently good, dude, book a trip to I don't even know. I was gonna say something cool, but wherever they play the national championship this year, okay? Is it in Houston?
or I don't even know. But you get what I'm saying. The dude is good. And if he can facilitate like this in like the last 2 games and then still be an elite scorer on top of that, boy, I'm excited. Oh, let's see. Like, hang on. I think part of the reason why Edu in Brazil are doing so good too is because of I think he had like 8 or 9 assists against Michigan too, and he's just opening it up for everybody. And then whenever Brazil and Edu are doing good, they're opening it up for the guards. So it's kind of symbiotic relationship for them. But yeah, no, Boogie's good, and like I've said many times.
Is San Antonio at the Alamo Dome?
Hey, I was in Texas. I mean, it's pretty close. I mean, not geographically, but same state, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I was about to say San Antonio this year, Indianapolis next year, Detroit in 27, and then in 2028 at Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium.
That would be fun. You think Cal's going to stay until 2028 though?
That'd be pushing it. I give him 3 to 4 years. I could see him being here through like maybe 27. Depends on if he, the way he's been this season, he seems a lot more youthful and energetic and happy to be on those sidelines. So maybe that gives him an extra year or two. He realizes how much he enjoys this coaching thing when he's not under all the pressures of Big Blue Nation.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's just freer because he's always had those quotes. He's been like after they beat Michigan, they're like, "How tough is the SEC?" And he's like, "Woof." Dude, you're on national TV, right?
Right.
So yeah, I feel like he looks happier. Kentucky, just a little older and maybe a little bit slower. Don't tell him I said that, but so that's a good thing. And hopefully we don't turn into big Blue Nation when it comes to whenever he starts to not do well here and there. I hope we want excellence, but we're not as
yeah.
It's like 2 or 3 times on mine, or whenever WarMachine was on, and I was like, "Oh no!" So,
yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Arkansas will be back in Saturday. North Carolina A&T, 1:30 on Saturday. One of final 2 non-conference games before we get things started on the road at Tennessee. Keep an eye out for transfer portal news. I'm sure we're going to get some more commits over the next few days. We still got a roster to fill out. The ones we've gotten so far is shaped up to be a decent class, but still want to see some continued improvement there. And I can't wait to see what the rest of this portal season has. The portal will close the day after Arkansas's bowl game. So hopefully you don't have too many jump ship after the bowl game. But, if we can finish filling out this roster over the next week and a half, it should, there could be some optimism for next season.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like you said, these last few commits have started to move that needle, but there's still a lot of work to do. So we just got to be patient, and I know that's the hard part, but that's just what we got to do.
Yeah, we like to see that good news. Arkansas fans don't necessarily want to sit and wait, but sometimes that's what's going to happen. I mean, look at it. We sat and waited, and we got a great commit in Corey Robinson. Big commit for the offensive line. So hopefully, maybe we get an Omega Blake, a guy like that, a Courtney Crutchfield. All signs are pointing to him being a hog. As I would love that. So we'll see over the next couple of days if it's all these crystal balls. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a commitment tomorrow, to say the least. Once all the paperwork and get through the little bit of the red tape and the paperwork and getting everything officially official, and then he can make that quick little trip down here to Fayetteville, shake some hands with the coaches, and there you go. Be like, all right, coaches, I'm ready to go. So
sweet.
But yeah, so we'll wrap up here. It was great to have WarMachine on, talk some football with us. Like Pigpen said, and I think I speak for both Austin and I. He puts out some fantastic videos and highlights, and the king of Arkansas hype videos and highlights and things of that nature. There's a reason that he was reached out to by the university to help some with Arkansas Edge stuff. So, at the end of the day, fun stuff talking hog ball with fellow Arkansas fans. So we'll be back on Sunday for our Razor recap. We'll let you know, who are the stars in the game this weekend. Do we have some more surprises, like another big game from Carter Knox, as we're kind of, getting these guys into game shape and getting these freshmen up to speed here. We thank everybody for tuning in tonight. And Sunday will be our last show before Christmas. And so, if we don't catch you then, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you back here on Sunday if you're able to be here. And until then, we're out of here, and we'll see you then.